Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Great to be here with you. If you're listening, Thanksgiving morning, happy Thanksgiving to you. Of course, these podcasts are meant to be evergreen, which means that you can listen to them 50 years in the future, and it's providing sound functional medicine, integrative health-based advice, Ayurvedic-based advice, all of them combined together. But what I wanted to share with you is that, of course, we all, at least for me, I enjoy a good holiday. I enjoy a good cheat meal. Even on yesterday's show, I went through this epic cheat meal that I had after I finished 4 days of events and presentations, went out with my family, just really enjoyed a fun meal together. I am someone who believes you can still be healthy. You can still maintain a great weight. You can still live a long, healthy life and enjoy all of your favorite foods. Not every day, that's not how it works, but certainly once a week, you can enjoy all of your favorite foods. And again, it's not a cheat day, it's a cheat meal we're talking about, right? So what we're trying to do is trying to get those foods into one meal. But the problem is you have a cheat meal and sometimes you feel bloated, you want to fall asleep, right? No energy, you've got some brain fog, you might even get a headache, right? And the next day you're feeling all sorts of tired and lethargic and just kind of lying around. Well, I believe that after listening to today's show, and I was trying to time it with Thanksgiving, that you will not have those specific issues. I think that you're going to be feeling just as much energy and feeling just as good using these specific tips while still being able to enjoy your favorite foods and beverages. So we're going to go over that right now. It's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to try to bullet all of these so that I make sure that you can really use these as takeaways. And I also want you to know that these are things that I do myself and with my entire family. So that means my daughters are using a lot of these techniques, not all of them, and you'll understand why in just a moment. But also I bring these things to my family, to the holidays, and so everybody can enjoy these meals too. All right, so let's get started. Let's help you enjoy cheat meals without all of the repercussions. All right, so first things first, what I like to say is this. Before, let's say it's Thanksgiving. So let's say your Thanksgiving dinner is, let's say it's 1 p.m., right? It could be 5 p.m. It doesn't really matter. So what you want to do, though, is about 4 to 5 hours before, stop eating, okay? So let's say it's 1 p.m. It's about 12:30, 1 p.m. at my house. So what do I need to do? Well, at 8 a.m., I need to finish my breakfast and be done with it for the day. And I still do recommend breakfast. A lot of people, what's called a food bank, right? Or a calorie bank. And that means if I don't eat now, I can eat way more later. Okay. The problem with that is this. You go into that meal super hungry, right? You're not truly famished, right? But you feel that way because it's been a little bit of time and your blood sugar might be dipping a bit. I actually don't recommend that. You want to go in and enjoy your favorite foods, but not necessarily pile a mound of food on your plate. You can enjoy all your favorite foods, but if you're like me, it's the first couple of bites that are absolutely the best, right? Because you haven't had this food in a bit. You don't eat it all the time. It might not be the healthiest food. And you're like, wow, this is delicious. But you don't need necessarily a mound of that on your plate. So if you're overly hungry, what happens is you eat your food really quickly. What happens then? Well, you need about 20 minutes for your stomach to signal to your brain that you're full. So if you wolf down all of that food in 5 minutes, so you're going to go back and you're going to get some more. So eat slowly. Yes, that's a big tip. Chew your food, enjoy, maybe even have a healthy appetizer, some veggies to kind of start to set that digestive system up that you're eating food. But also what I would say is this, have a breakfast, right? Unless you eat Thanksgiving for breakfast, eat breakfast, right? Just have a normal smoothie. Nothing too crazy. Enjoy your smoothie. It'll be totally digested and you won't be as hungry when it comes time for that lunch meal. Now, if your Thanksgiving dinner is at evening dinner, let's say it's 5 o'clock or so, well, have a little earlier lunch. Maybe your lunch is at 11 or 12, and then just go those 4 or 5 hours. Stomach's totally empty. This is the second half to it. Why do I want your stomach empty before that meal? Because if you already have some food in there and in the first part of the small intestine, the duodenum, then you're more likely than not to cause that food to ferment and putrefy and have more bacteria, which leads to what? More bloating, more gas, right? More digestive-based issues. So let's go 4 to 5 hours before our big Thanksgiving meal, but let's not skip necessarily the meal before it. We might just bump it up, and it doesn't have to be as big a meal, right? So if you're having lunch, it might be a small lunch that day. Small lunch, right? You don't need to fill up on a big lunch when you're going to have, you know yourself, probably more of a cheat meal that night. One caveat I will say is that this show is not called Thanksgiving meal. It's called cheat meal. And here's why. Because for my Thanksgiving meal, it's actually really healthy, because on Thanksgiving, I find it can be a very healthy meal. You could maybe have some rice and maybe have some turkey and all sorts of different squash and veggies. It doesn't necessarily have to be unhealthy, right? But it could be if you're like me. I have a little bit extra than I typically do, probably like twice as much as I typically do, and I'm enjoying it. I'm choosing to do that. That's my choice to do, right? I'm healthy. I can make that choice, and that's what I do. But there is a little bit of dessert in there. I won't lie, right? So, but the thing is, there'll be other holidays where it's not. Christmas, probably not eating as healthy, right? There's going to be more pasta in there and things like that. All right. So the second is this. Before Thanksgiving Day meal or any cheat meal, 30 minutes before, 30 to 60 minutes out, not right before the meal, 30 to 60 minutes out, have a glass of water, okay? Tall glass of water. Why? It's going to help with the stomach mucosa. It's going to help with digestion overall. You're going to hydrate your body, and you're also going to get rid of that false sense of hunger that's due to dehydration. Make sure you have a nice glass of water. Just don't have it before the meal, which will dilute those digestive juices, all right? 30 minutes to 60 minutes before, have a tall glass of water. Make it room temperature. Don't make it cold. Allow that to digest into the body. All right, now we're getting ready for our appetizers, or we're getting ready for that main course. We're going to take 2 to 3 daily digestive enzymes. I can't link them up, but they're all over at stevencabral.com/shop. Once you get to Equilife, you will simply type in daily digestive enzymes. But again, pick your favorite company. Again, I'm just here to be a resource, let you know what I do and let you know what we do in our private practice. 2 to 3 digestive enzymes. You might say, well, I typically take one. And I would agree with you. I typically take one. But this isn't your average meal. This is a cheat meal, right? And because of that, or flex meal, call it whatever you'd like. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to have more food than you typically do, and so you need more enzymes to break down the more food than you typically have, okay? So 2 to 3 enzymes, you really can't take too many enzymes. You really can't. The worst that happens if you were to take like 12 enzymes is you'd have loose stool, right? So I don't recommend that. I'm not saying that, but 2 to 3. I have people take 3 to 4 all the time. These are people that were trying to build up their digestive system because their digestive system is pretty weak right now. So you can say, well, I'm not going to take any because I just want to allow my body to do its own work. Well, you have to understand that your body's not doing the work, and you're eating food no matter what, right? So it's a good idea to give your body a little bit of assistance, right? It will be very appreciative because that will lead to less fatigue, less food sensitivities as you're breaking down these proteins, because there's proteases in the enzyme, but there's also bromelain and there's also papain that help to break down those proteins as well. So it's very, very beneficial. So 10 minutes or so, or right when you start your meal, take 2 to 3 enzymes. And then next, follow, again, you can choose to do this or not. I'm just giving you all the tips, right? You can follow something they call food layering. I'm going to link that up here today. Go to stevencabral.com/2120. Again, I can't link up any of the nutritional supplements, but I can link up previous podcasts. I talk about food combining and food layering. Most people are not going to follow food combining. And for the most part, most people don't really need to follow that unless they're doing something egregious like eating fruit and meat together. They're just not a good combination. But food layering helps people eat pretty much all foods at the same meal, fruit excluded, and not have digestive issues. So what you do is you start with the starches first. Then you eat your meat and veggies, and then you can, believe it or not, have your salad and roughage at the end of the meal. And that will help all of those things to digest in their normal pattern. If you've never heard about this before, we'll link up a podcast on all the details. That's called food layering. Now, if you're like me, and especially during cheat meal, I like to move around the plate. I've got this little strategy. I want a little taste here, then another little taste, then another little taste, and I just keep rotating around. Because again, this is my cheat meal. I get to do what I choose to do, right? And so that's what I do. But if you want far less bloating, follow the food layering properties, which allow for the easiest to digest foods to move through first and not get caught up and then not ferment, right? So like the sweet potatoes, and if you do cranberry sauce, which is a fruit, of course, those things are going to go in first, right? Cranberry sauce, then it would be sweet potatoes, then it would be, let's say, asparagus with the turkey. Those two can digest fine together, right? And then after that would be maybe like a salad or Brussels sprouts. All right. So that's how you would, an example of food layering. All right. So then during the meal though, so we did our enzymes at the beginning of the meal. During our meal, we would take, if there was a lot of meat involved, you could take 1 to 2. Some people need more, but I never recommend more than 1 to 2 until we know for the person if they need more, of what's called betaine, HCl, and pepsin. So betaine, HCl, and pepsin actually help to produce more stomach acid. Now, again, these are not typically products you would take if you have H. pylori or ulcers or any type of stomach condition, like any issues, right? But if you don't have those issues, you may use this with a larger meat-based meal because it will help break down the meat, and the meat will not hang around in your stomach as long, which means less bloating, which is great, right? Less brain fog. All right, so that's about 30 minutes into the meal because that's typically when you're going to start producing more stomach acid, which is basically lower pH that helps to break down proteins. Okay, another tip I'd like to give you, because you may never use betaine, HCl, and pepsin. I don't use it with every meal, but certainly I take it with sometimes larger meat meals. Okay, so another thing though, let's say you don't want to use betaine, HCl, and pepsin. So what do we do? Well, here's what we do. We use ginger tea, so a hot cup of ginger tea, as a nice digestive aid. Or you might say, well, the place I'm going, they don't have any ginger tea. Well, maybe you bring the ginger tea. That's nice. Traditional Medicinals makes a nice ginger tea. Organic India makes a nice ginger tea. So those are great ones to use. But also, you could just bring some sparkling water and some lemons or limes to the party, and you could do that too. That adds a nice little digestive aid. In Ayurveda, believe it or not, the little bit of bubbles in that provides a little air to the stomach, which allows for a little bit of expansion, which can help with digestion. The lemon or the lime, just like the ginger, are acid. Now that you might say, well, no, those are alkaline fruits and herbs. And I would say, yes, they digest alkaline, but in your stomach, in your mouth, they're actually acidic, just like kiwi would be or pineapple would be, okay? So these things are acidic, and believe it or not, they can actually help with digestion. One more that some people love to do because they get such great benefit in terms of blood sugar, blocking some fat absorption as well, or I should say adding more adipose tissue, adding more body fat, and also digestion is add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. It has to be raw. I always recommend Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Great brand, great company. And you could just add 1 or 2 tablespoons per glass of water. The last thing is, even if you're just drinking regular water, make sure it's not cold. You don't want to drink cold drinks with whole food. Smoothies are different. We won't get into that today. It's already pre-digested, but this is not pre-digested. This is whole food. Okay. That's that with that. We just have a couple more tips. Now comes dessert. What do? We've got dessert. It breaks all the food combining principles. It breaks all the food layering principles. What do we do? Okay, the best thing that we can do, as long as you're not out to dinner, this is when the whole family can get up. They can clean up the kitchen. They can put away the plates. They can walk around a little bit. They can take the kids outside, play with the kids outside. Again, this is like holidays I'm talking about. But for a cheat meal, maybe you can take your dog for a walk. Maybe you can go for a walk as a family. Digest that food a little bit if you can. And again, I would love for you to listen to my original food combining podcast. I have 2 of them because I come from a Italian and Portuguese background, and they knew all of this intuitively. It's absolutely remarkable. I can't take you through those specific stories today, but it really is remarkable that, especially my grandmother, she was a great cook, and she knew all of these things. She knew about food layering. She knew about waiting, 30 minutes to 60 minutes before serving the dessert. And a little tip I'm about to give you right now. Absolutely remarkable. Was she ever taught this? Well, she was. She was taught it from her mother, who was taught it from her mother, but nothing scientifically based. It's just what they did back in Italy. It's what they did back in Portugal. And I feel like we've lost a lot of that. We really have. And we kind of like look down upon it like, oh, there's no science to that. Believe me, there is science to all of this, right? If you understand nutritional biochemistry, you understand how the body actually works on digestion and the pH of the stomach and all of these different things. So, all right, we're going to get into dessert. Wait ideally 30 to 60 minutes. Here's why. Wait for some of the food to already begin to move through your stomach. Wait for a lot of those proteins to start breaking down. So when you add some type of sugary substance on top, which most desserts are, whether it be pies or cakes or, I don't know, whatever else people eat for dessert, cookies, that you allow a lot of those things to already break down so that the sugar on top, which is meant to digest quickly, doesn't begin to ferment in your stomach, which causes that bloating, sometimes a little bit of that pain on the rib cage, right? So we want to make sure that we don't have that. So let's give a little bit of time between the main meal and dessert. Now, couple pro tips for dessert. Take additional gluten and dairy digest enzymes, right? So these enzymes will actually enable you to break down gluten and dairy to a far larger degree. And these have been clinically proven. These are things like DPP4. A lot of these things have never been, people don't know about them because of course your doctor's never going to tell you that these things exist. They never studied nutrition, and that's okay. Their job's not meant to do that. A lot of times we get down on our PCP. Why didn't they tell me this? They were never taught that. So what are they supposed to do? Teach you something that they never knew? I don't teach open heart surgery, right? I'm just teaching about the things that I've chosen to study. So gluten and dairy support enzymes, you're going to take anywhere between 1, 2, or 3 of those, depending on the size of the dessert, right? And again, you're not going to really take too much. They contain lactase to break down lactose, DPP4, and of course, they contain fat digesting enzymes, protein, carbohydrates as well. So great enzymes to take before dessert, just like you did for your other enzymes before your main meal. I do give these to my daughters. And if they say they're ever bloated after a meal, we can also give the enzyme after a meal if we need to. People think it only has to be before the meal. It doesn't. Enzymes will break down the food that they touch, right? So that's a big part of it. Now, so we do this again, do this with my daughters. My daughters will never get betaine, HCl, and pepsin. That's not for kids, but enzymes they can take. Okay, so and again, for my daughters, for drinks of the meal, they consume room temperature tap water. And we can squeeze some lemon or lime in their drinks as well. They're also allowed to have a little sparkling water if they choose to. And I typically drink San Pellegrino, or I drink Mountain Valley sparkling, or I drink Gerolsteiner sparkling water. And those are all great. They're all natural mineral waters. Okay, the last tip I want to give you is this. Hot coffee, hot tea are phenomenal for digestive aids, like digestive bitters. If you have an Italian background or you have a background in bitters, digestive bitters, a digestive bitter drink can also be helpful too. But a lot of the digestive bitters we have in this country and that are also imported from overseas have red dye in them and different types of dyes, which are not ideal. But I will have, after a big cheat meal, I will have a cup of hot decaf coffee, black coffee. And not only is it slightly acidic, but the heat helps with the heat in my stomach for digestion. Now, if you don't like that, you could have ginger tea. You can basically have any hot herbal-based tea, and that's totally fine. You could do a green tea. You could do a black tea. Any hot tea or coffee is going to be completely fine. I'm not one of those people that can have coffee at 7 o'clock at night and still go to bed. So I choose decaf, and though it's going to be great for digestion as well. All right. So here's the thing. Do I recommend eating like this all the time? I certainly do not. Do I believe that it's going to happen to 99.99% of people during the holidays and maybe even once a week or so? The answer is yes, right? So we also want to be realistic. I live in the real world. I want to help people that live in the real world just like me. I enjoy a good flex meal. I enjoy a good holiday meal. This is exactly what I do. This is what I share in my private practice. So of course, I wanted to share it with you as well. Let me know if there's any questions. Feel free to leave any of your tips as well on YouTube in the comments or right on Instagram. Of course, we'd love to hear your tips as well. And if this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing Thanksgiving if you're celebrating and listening to the podcast the same day. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. It means the world to me. You know that. I appreciate your support. And as a member of our community, I wanted to let you know that, believe it or not, the holidays are already here. One of my favorite times of the year. I love to be able to celebrate it with our community, with friends, with family. I hope you do as well. One of the things that we do, though, over at Ecolife, once a year, we offer our annual holiday sale. This is savings of up to 25% off our already everyday low prices. That means you can save hundreds of dollars on your favorite at-home lab test, your favorite protocol, whether it be a heavy metal detox, functional medicine detox, CBO protocol, you name it, it is going to be up to 25% off. Plus, you can pick up and stock up on your favorite nutritional supplements. Going on right now over at Ecolife, the link to head on over there is stevencabral.com/shop. And when you are over there checking out all of the deals, make sure you sign up for the SMS text. Here's why. We're going to be doing special pop-up offers for the next week on SMS text. That means you're going to get exclusive deals when you're signed up as part of our SMS text community. Head on over to stevencabral.com/shop. Check out all the deals, savings of up to 25% off, and also head on over and grab that spot on the SMS text list to save on all those special pop-up offers. Take care. Enjoy the start to the holiday season.